Hi, my name is John Micotolia. I am a second year student of Political Science and Western Institute of Technology in Iloilo, and I'll be telling you about what happened to the globalization of the Philippines in the midst of pandemic. So at the beginning of 2020, the Philippines was struck by a devastating enemy that can't be seen by a human eye. It was all over the place, it was all over the world, and there was basically nothing we can do other than isolating ourselves and keeping ourselves locked out, and others are just waiting for their demise. So the COVID-19 came down to us by halting our economy, and countries all over the world felt that, especially US and China, and all over the world. Big countries who are already developed have also felt the wrath of the COVID-19. Businesses were closed, factories stopped operating. Everything was basically, you know, ended, or everything halted. And small businesses were in debt, and others even filed a bankruptcy, which in return skyrocketed the unemployment rate, not only in the Philippines but also the unemployment rate all over the world. So basically, Philippines is a developing country. Um, it doesn't have, that much money, and for our government to basically sustain its population of over 100 million, our government has to resort to loans in foreign banks or on the World Bank. And not only that, it is a risky and the move that needs to be done in order for the economy of the Philippines to be saved. It also led for our economy to plummet down just to be able to sustain its needs and also to sustain the needs of its people. So to strengthen the country's economy and also to slowly lift it up, my advocacy is for the government to strengthen its relationship with foreign companies and investors abroad, and also even locally. If you have noticed, when the pandemic hit, the companies that are usually operating without these threats of the virus have completely stopped their operation, completely halted. And even though some of them might operate now, but it's not really a guarantee because their employee is working on a skeletal schedule, which means they don't know if they might report back to work, and that depends on the rate of the people who are getting infected day by day. Now, what I noticed is that there is only one industry that is still operational without any issue up until this point that you hear this video, and that is the business outsource industry. Now, you might have heard these companies as BPO or call center companies, but to be honest, they are the only companies that are operational before the pandemic happened, and even though now that the pandemic is happening. And if the government can somewhat persuade other investors or other companies to outsource here in our country, that would be a very great move, and that would be a great help, not only for our economy, since they're going to be paying taxes and they're going to be paying for the wages of the Filipinos, but also Filipinos would have a job, and we also as Filipinos, given that we have a job, would also contribute through our taxes. Now, the pandemic have already reached a year of a milestone here in our country, and since the pandemic started, a lot of jobs from the office have been shifted remotely, and a lot of people are really now comfortable with the work from home setup. And that is basically the thing that these companies have been doing since the pandemic started. To be honest, I myself is one of the lucky persons to be employed last year when the pandemic had started, and it sure did help me a lot with my bills, with my expenses, and also with my tuition. So having a job with this, or in this situation rather, really does help me a lot. Now, in this current situation, of course, a lot of people have been unemployed, and in the comfort of their home, they would be able to work, and basically it is a win-win situation for everybody. Now, the government has been giving ameliorations to the people, for the ones who didn't got a job, or who got laid off from work when the pandemic started. Basically, without money, people wouldn't be able to feed their family, and just waiting alone for that amelioration of 5,000 pesos will not be enough. Now, what people really needs, or what the people really need, are jobs, and those jobs could help them if they could basically find one. Now, if they do have a job, they would have money, and if they would have money, they will be able to buy food and other essential needs, thus still contributing to the economy by paying taxes. Now, since the global trade have basically ruptured the fabric of reality with this COVID pandemic, everything has restrictions. The airline industry have basically non-operational, and some of the flights here, some of the flights there, but that isn't enough to keep them floating. Global trade has also halted due to border restrictions, and basically this is the only plausible way to slowly pull up the economy. Now, may I remind you that with this new normal scenario, a lot of us needs to cope up working digitally. Even classes are being done digitally. So by encouraging more investors and companies to outsource here in our country is basically the key, and it really fits right into the situation that we're at. Not only that we can bring the economy up, but also we ourselves can become a catalyst of globalization, because remember, these companies started to outsource from us, which we don't know what our their main goal is, but they might be providing services or goods in their country. Now, as their employee, we are also the part of that process. Thus, we are also expanding their reach, or expanding their company, and in return, we do have a job, and we do have money, and ultimately, we do have a food that we can put on our table. Thank you.